The vastness of space held many secrets, but Captain Jenna Rhodes never expected to find one quite like this. Her exploration vessel, the Horizon Seeker, drifted silently through the uncharted regions of the Outer Rim, where even the Galactic Alliance's most detailed star charts showed nothing but empty space and distant nebulae. "Captain, you need to see this." Lieutenant Zeichsel's crystalline form pulsed with an urgent blue light as their sensor-laden appendages worked the detection array. The crystalline officer's normally steady voice carried an edge of uncertainty that immediately caught Rhodes' attention. "Show me," Rhodes ordered, rising from her command chair. The holographic display materialized before her, revealing a massive silhouette against the backdrop of stars. It was a ship, but unlike anything the Galactic Alliance had ever encountered. The vessel was easily twice the size of the Horizon Seeker, its hull a midnight black that seemed to drink in the light of nearby stars. Angular plates of armor covered its surface like scales, and what appeared to be weapon ports dotted its length in patterns that spoke of both beauty and deadly purpose. "No energy signatures, Captain," reported Chief Engineer Colven, his four arms moving across multiple control panels simultaneously. The Quatran's normally cheerful demeanor had been replaced by professional focus. But the hull composition, it's unlike anything in our database. Rhodes studied the ghost ship with growing fascination and unease. 20 years of deep space exploration had taught her that discoveries like this usually came with equal measures of opportunity and danger. "Life signs." "None detected," Zeichsel responded, their crystalline form now pulsing with a cautious amber. "But there's something odd about the internal readings. It's as if parts of the ship are shielded from our scans." First Officer Dren Call, a towering Nexian warrior whose species had evolved from apex predators, moved to stand beside Rhodes. His scaled skin shifted colors slightly, reflecting his tension. "This has the markings of a warship, Captain. The design is too purposeful, too aggressive." "Agreed," Rhodes said quietly. "But whose, and why leave it here in the middle of nowhere?" She turned to her science officer. "Dr. Vix, any matches in the historical archives?" The aging Mindweaver's tendrils writhed thoughtfully as she accessed the ship's database. "There are similarities to artifacts we've recovered from the human era, Captain. The metallurgical composition shares characteristics with remnants found in the Sol system ruins." A hushed silence fell over the bridge. Humans were practically mythical beings now, a species that had apparently reached the stars centuries before any other known civilization, only to vanish mysteriously at the height of their power. All that remained were fragments of their technology and warnings carved into the ruins of their worlds. "Plot an approach vector," Rhodes commanded after a moment's consideration. "But keep our shields at maximum. Dr. Vix, prepare a boarding team. I want our best xenoarchaeologists and security personnel. Whatever this ship is, it might hold answers to one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries." As the Horizon Seeker drew closer to the derelict vessel, Rhodes couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ghost ship's sleek form seemed to ripple slightly in the starlight, like a predator waiting to strike. "Captain," Zeichsel called out suddenly, their crystalline form flashing red. "The ship, it's activating." Before Rhodes could respond, a pulse of energy swept out from the mysterious vessel, washing over the Horizon Seeker like a wave. Every system on their ship flickered momentarily, and in that instant Rhodes could have sworn she heard a voice, ancient, human, and filled with urgent purpose, whisper through their communication system. "Protocol Starfall initiated. Guardian Awakening sequence commenced." The ghost ship's surface began to shimmer with lines of blue energy, like circuits coming to life. Weapon ports that had seemed dormant now glowed with an inner fire, and at the heart of the vessel something was stirring. Rhodes realized with sudden clarity that they hadn't found this ship by accident. It had wanted to be found, had been waiting all these centuries for the right moment, the right discoverers. And now, for better or worse, they had awakened whatever slumbered within. "All hands battle stations," she ordered, even as she knew they were dealing with something far beyond their understanding. "Whatever happens next, we're about to make history." The ghost ship's response was to open its hangar doors like the maw of some ancient leviathan, revealing a darkness that seemed to pulse with purpose. The human era's legacy was about to reveal itself, and the galaxy would never be the same. The boarding shuttle cut through the darkness of space like a silver needle threading its way toward the awakened ghost ship. Captain Rhodes led the expedition team herself, accompanied by Dr. Vix, Lieutenant Zeichsel, and a squad of their best security personnel. The massive vessel's hangar bay swallowed them whole, ancient automated systems guiding their craft to a perfect landing. Atmosphere is present and breathable, announced Zeichsel, their crystalline form casting prismatic light patterns across the shuttle's interior. Temperature is rising to habitable levels. It's as if the ship is accommodating us. Rhodes checked her pulse rifle one final time before standing. Remember, we're dealing with human technology here. Everything we know about them suggests they were masters of both innovation and warfare. Stay alert. The team emerged into the hangar bay, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The ghost ship's internal lighting had activated, creating pools of soft blue illumination that guided their way. The walls were lined with empty weapon racks and maintenance bays, all designed for vessels and equipment long since gone. Fascinating, Dr. Vix whispered, her tendrils weaving complex patterns as she scanned everything in sight. The technology here, it's centuries ahead of what we thought humans had achieved. These maintenance systems are still functional after all this time. They made their way deeper into the ship, following the trail of activated systems. The corridors were wide and efficiently designed, speaking of a military vessel built for both power and practicality. But there was something else, subtle details that caught Rhodes' attention. The way certain sections seemed to pulse with hidden energy, how the ship's systems appeared to anticipate their movements. Captain called out Security Chief Wren, a stocky Volarian whose species was known for their enhanced spatial awareness. There's something different about this section ahead. The air, it feels charged. They had reached a sealed doorway larger than the others, marked with symbols that Dr. Vix quickly began to translate. It's a warning, Captain, or perhaps a welcome. The text reads, Chamber of the Guardian, approach with purpose. Before Rhodes could respond, the door began to open on its own, revealing a circular chamber bathed in soft golden light. At its center stood a raised platform, and upon it rested what appeared to be a stasis pod unlike anything they had ever seen. Its surface was a seamless blend of metal and crystal, and within. Life signs, Zeichsel's form flashed bright white with surprise. One human life form in perfect preservation. Rhodes approached the pod carefully, wiping away centuries of dust from its viewport. Through the crystalline surface, she could make out the face of a man who looked to be in his early 40s, his features sharp and distinguished, wearing what appeared to be a high-ranking military uniform. Commodore Marcus Blackthorne, Dr. Vix read from the pod's identification plate, her tendrils trembling with excitement. Earth Defense Force Special Division Phoenix. The pod's surface suddenly came alive with holographic displays, and a voice, the same one they had heard earlier, filled the chamber. Identity confirmed. Non-hostile entities detected. Beginning revival sequence. Everyone back, Rhodes ordered, but she found herself rooted to the spot as the pod began to hum with power. The crystal surface became transparent, revealing more detail of the man within. His chest began to rise and fall with strengthening breaths. The pod opened with a soft hiss of escaping gases, and Commodore Marcus Blackthorne opened his eyes for the first time in centuries. They were a striking steel gray, and they took in the assembled aliens with remarkable composure for someone who had just awakened to a drastically changed galaxy. You're not human, he said, his voice hoarse but clear. Good, that means some species survived what's coming. He sat up slowly, his movements precise despite his long hibernation. How long? By human calendar records, approximately 300 years, Dr. Vix answered. Blackthorne closed his eyes briefly, a flash of pain crossing his features. Longer than we hoped, but not too late, not if the energy signatures I'm detecting are what I fear they are. He stood, his stance that of a warrior ready for battle despite centuries of sleep. I am Commodore Marcus Blackthorne, and I carry humanity's final warning, the enemy that destroyed. Earth has returned, and this ship, the Nemesis, carries the only weapon ever created that could stop them. What enemy? Rhodes asked, even as ship-wide alarms began to blare. What destroyed Earth? We called them the Void Hunters, Blackthorne replied, moving to a control panel that activated at his touch. Entities that exist partially outside normal spacetime, feeding on entire civilizations. We fought them for decades, watching them consume our colonies one by one. This ship and others like it were our last hope, vessels carrying weapons designed to tear open the barriers between dimensions and strike at their very essence. Lieutenant Zeichsel's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting massive spatial distortions in the outer rim. Multiple systems are going dark. Blackthorne's expression hardened. They're here, earlier than I expected, Captain. He turned to Rhodes, his eyes intense. Your people now face the same choice humanity did. Fight against something you barely understand or watch your civilization vanish into the void. The Nemesis can help, but only if you're willing to trust the legacy of a dead species. Rhodes looked at the ancient human warrior, then at her crew. The weight of history and the future pressed down on her shoulders as alarms continued to sound throughout both ships. The time for discussion was over. The time for action had come. The command center of the Nemesis thrummed with renewed energy as Commodore Blackthorne interfaced with its ancient systems. Captain Rhodes and her crew watched in amazement as holographic displays materialized around them, showing scenes from humanity's final days. The images were so crisp and detailed, it felt as if they were watching history unfold before their eyes. Earth was at its peak when they first appeared, Blackthorne began, his hands moving across control panels with practiced ease. We had colonized Mars, established bases throughout our solar system, and were reaching for the stars. Then the first void tier appeared near Jupiter. The holographic display showed a massive rupture in space, a wound in reality that seemed to absorb light itself. Through it emerged something that defied description, writhing tentacles of pure darkness interwoven with streams of impossible energy. We thought we were prepared for first contact, Blackthorne continued, his voice heavy with memory. We had mighty fleets, advanced weapons, shields that could withstand solar flares. None of it mattered. The Void Hunters didn't just attack our ships, they consumed them, broke down the very atomic structure of everything they touched. The images shifted to show Earth's defense fleets engaging the entities. Massive battleships unleashed salvos of energy weapons and antimatter torpedoes, only to watch their attacks pass harmlessly through the cosmic horrors. One by one, the ships were enveloped in darkness and simply ceased to exist. Jupiter's moons fell first, Blackthorne narrated as the display showed the destruction. Then Mars. We watched our colonies vanish, millions of lives extinguished in moments, but it gave us something precious: data. We finally began to understand what we were fighting. Dr. Vix's tendrils writhed in fascination as complex scientific readings appeared. They exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. That's why conventional weapons were useless. Exactly, Blackthorne nodded. We realized we couldn't destroy them, but we could disrupt the quantum resonance that allowed them to exist in our reality. Project Nemesis was born. The holographic display showed massive shipyards orbiting Earth, where vessels like the Nemesis were being constructed. Each ship was equipped with a quantum resonance array, Blackthorne explained, designed to create controlled tiers in spacetime, matching the Void Hunter's own frequency but reversed, like fighting fire with fire. Lieutenant Zeichsel's crystalline form pulsed with understanding. You would force them back into their own dimension. But it wasn't ready in time, was it? Rhodes asked softly, seeing the pain in Blackthorne's eyes. No, the display showed Earth's final days. Void tiers appeared in low orbit, massive and unstoppable. We had a choice: use all our remaining resources to evacuate as many as we could or make one final stand. We chose both. The scenes showed massive evacuation ships launching while others stayed to fight. Operation Starfall was our last gambit. We scattered ships like the Nemesis throughout the galaxy, each with a guardian in stasis. We knew the Void Hunters would return someday, hunting other civilizations. We left ourselves as sentinels, waiting to be found by those who would need our knowledge. How many other ships? Rhodes asked. 12, Blackthorne replied, but I don't know if the others survived. The Nemesis was simply the first to be awakened. He turned to face them fully. Now you understand why I was preserved. The weapon systems require a human consciousness to operate. We discovered that human brains have a unique quantum signature that resonates with the void tiers. Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared with new alerts. The holographic display shifted to show real-time data from the outer rim. 3 more systems had gone dark, their quantum signatures simply vanishing from existence. They're not just hunting now, Blackthorne said grimly. They're accelerating. The Void Hunters remember what happened on Earth. They won't give us time to prepare this time. Captain Rhodes straightened, her decision made. Then we don't waste time. Commodore, I'm placing the resources of the Horizon Seeker at your disposal. What do you need? First, we contact the Galactic Alliance, Blackthorne said, bringing up navigation charts. Then we find the other Guardian ships. The Nemesis is powerful, but against what's coming, we'll need every weapon we can muster. And if we can't find them? Wren asked, the security chief's tactical mind already planning for contingencies. Blackthorne's expression was resolute. Then we do what humanity did, we stand and fight, no matter the cost. Because the alternative is watching everything you've ever known vanish into the void. The ancient human warrior turned to the assembled alien crew, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. My people gave their lives to buy the galaxy time. Now that time has run out. The question is, are you ready to make the same stand we did? Rhodes looked at her crew, seeing determination replace fear in their eyes. They had all heard stories of humanity's last stand, tales of a species that fought to the end against impossible odds. Now they had a chance to write a new chapter in that story. We stand with you, Commodore, she declared, for Earth's legacy and for our own future. The Nemesis's engines began to power up, systems that had slept for centuries awakening with renewed purpose. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Blackthorn allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps humanity's sacrifice hadn't been in vain after all. The fight wasn't over, it was just beginning again, with new allies and new hope. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Alliance was in chaos. Representatives from 30 different species argued amongst themselves as reports of vanishing outposts and mysterious spatial anomalies flooded in from across the outer rim. Captain Rhodes stood before them, Commodore Blackthorn at her side, watching the political theater unfold. The Centaurian Union cannot ignore the loss of 3 mining colonies, thundered Ambassador Thrax, his bioluminescent patches flashing with anger. Something is consuming our worlds. But to trust the word of a single human, countered Representative Myra of the Synthetic Collective, her holographic form flickering with skepticism. A relic from a failed civilization, the collective's analysis suggests natural spatial phenomena. Blackthorn stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. The ancient warrior had traded his stasis suit for a restored Earth Defense Force uniform, its black and silver design a stark contrast to the colorful garb of the Alliance representatives. While you debate, the Void Hunters grow stronger, he said, his voice cutting through the chamber. Every world they consume adds to their power. You have hours, maybe days, before they reach the inner systems. He gestured, and the Nemesis's sensor data filled the chamber's holographic displays. The images showed massive tears in spacetime, spreading like cracks in reality itself. This is exactly how it began with Earth. Denial, debate, then death. High Chancellor Voss, a towering Aquilian whose crystalline body structure reflected the chamber's light in rainbow patterns, raised her hand for silence. You speak of other Guardian ships, Commodore, other weapons like your Nemesis. Where are they? We've detected quantum signatures matching the Nemesis in 3 locations, Rhodes answered, stepping forward with her own data display. The Maelstrom Nebula, the Thanatos Belt, and the Outer Void. But the signatures are weak. We don't know what condition these ships are in after 3 centuries. Or if their guardians still live, Blackthorn added grimly. A new alert suddenly blared through the chamber. The holographic displays shifted to show a massive void tier forming at the edge of the Centaurian Union's space. As the assembled representatives watched in horror, an entire star system simply vanished, its quantum signature erased from existence. By the first light, whispered Chancellor Voss, an entire system gone. Now you understand what we faced, Blackthorn said quietly. What your civilization faces now, the Nemesis can fight them, but alone will fail just as Earth did. Captain Rhodes took control of the central display, showing tactical projections. We need a coordinated response. The Horizon Seeker can lead a task force to locate and retrieve the Guardian ships. Meanwhile, the Nemesis can establish defensive positions using its quantum resonance technology to slow the Void Hunters' advance. And if we refuse, asked Representative Myra, if we choose to defend ourselves our own way? Blackthorn's laugh was hollow. Then you'll die your own way. We tried every possible defense, antimatter weapons, quantum disruptors, even attempts to communicate. Nothing worked. The resonance technology is the only thing that ever caused them pain. The chamber fell silent as another alert sounded. 2 more systems had gone dark. The Void Hunters were accelerating their assault, moving faster than even Blackthorn had predicted. Chancellor Voss rose to her full height. We cannot ignore this threat any longer. By my authority as High Chancellor, I am declaring a state of galactic emergency. She turned to Rhodes and Blackthorn. You have the Alliance's full support. What do you need? Your fastest ships and best crews, Rhodes answered immediately. We split into 3 task forces, one led by the Horizon Seeker, one by the Nemesis, and one to begin evacuating the outer colonies. We have to assume the Void Hunters will breach our defenses somewhere. And we need your scientists, Blackthorn added. The quantum resonance technology can be adapted to modern ships. It won't be as effective as the Guardian vessels, but it might buy us time. The chamber erupted in activity as representatives began coordinating their species' resources. Orders were transmitted, fleets were mobilized, and evacuation protocols were initiated. The galaxy was going to war. As the chamber cleared, Dr. Vix approached Blackthorn with new sensor data. Commodore, we've detected unusual energy fluctuations from the Guardian ship in the Maelstrom Nebula. It appears to be active. Blackthorn studied the readings, his expression tight. Not active, fighting, that Guardian is already engaged with the Void Hunters. He turned to Rhodes. Captain, we need to move now if we lose even one of the Guardian ships. Understood, Rhodes was already sending orders to her crew. The Horizon Seeker is ready for immediate departure. One more thing, Blackthorn said, his voice low enough that only Rhodes could hear. If we find the other Guardians, there's something you need to know about what we really did to fight the Void Hunters, something that wasn't in Earth's records. Rhodes met his gaze, seeing the weight of centuries in his eyes, something worse than watching worlds die. Much worse, Blackthorn replied, let's pray we don't have to use it. As they hurried toward their ships, the massive void tier in Centaurian space grew larger, its edges rippling with impossible energies. The Void Hunters were announcing their return, and this time, they meant to finish what they had started with humanity. The only question was whether the galaxy could unite quickly enough to stop them. The Maelstrom Nebula lived up to its name, its swirling clouds of cosmic gas illuminated by the quantum disruptions of battle. The Nemesis and Horizon Seeker emerged from faster-than-light travel to find a scene of unprecedented chaos. The second Guardian ship, the Prometheus, was engaged in combat with three massive void tiers, its quantum resonance beams cutting through spacetime like brilliant spears of light. Life signs aboard the Prometheus, Lieutenant Zeichstel reported, their crystalline form pulsing with excitement. One human active. Guardian vessel Prometheus, this is Commodore Marcus Blackthorn of the Nemesis, Blackthorn transmitted, his hands flying over the quantum interface controls. We are moving to support. The response came through filled with static. Commodore, Guardian Catherine Way, we've been fighting them for hours. They're different, stronger than before, the resonance weapons barely slowing them down. The Nemesis's sensors revealed the truth of her words. The Void Hunters had evolved, their energy signatures more complex than anything in Blackthorn's records. Tentacles of pure darkness lashed out from the spatial tiers, each strike powerful enough to shred a capital ship. All Alliance vessels form up on the Nemesis, Captain Rhodes commanded, coordinating the combined fleet they'd assembled. Dr. Vix, what's the status of the adapted resonance technology? Untested, Captain, the science officer replied, her tendrils writhing with nervous energy. But the modifications are complete. 20 ships now carry quantum resonance projectors based on the Nemesis's design. Blackthorn's expression was grim as he studied the tactical display. It'll have to be enough, because if we don't stop them here, he paused, looking at Rhodes. Captain, it's time I told you what the Guardians really are, what we really did to fight these things. Before he could continue, the void tiers pulsed with new energy. The darkness between realities split open wider, and something massive began to emerge. A central mass of writhing tentacles surrounding a core of impossible geometry that hurt the eyes to look at. By the stars, whispered Rhodes, what is that? Their leader, Blackthorn said quietly. We called it the Void Queen. We only saw it once during Earth's final battle. That's when we discovered what the resonance technology really does. It doesn't just force them back. It lets us connect with them, communicate, feel what they feel. Understanding dawned in Rhodes's eyes. The Guardians, you're not just pilots, you're bridges. Blackthorn nodded. The resonance weapons require a human consciousness to work because we found a way to temporarily merge our minds with their reality. Every time we fire the weapons, we touch the void, feel their hunger, their alien thoughts. His hands tightened on the controls. It's how we learned their true purpose. They don't just consume worlds. They consume entire realities, breaking down the barriers between dimensions until everything collapses into their void. The Void Queen's presence seemed to distort space itself, reality bending around its impossible form. More tiers began to open, surrounding the fleet. Guardian Way, Blackthorn transmitted to the Prometheus. You know what we have to do, the protocol. The final resonance, Way's voice came back stronger now. Are you sure there's no coming back from it? What are you talking about? Rhodes demanded. Blackthorn's eyes met hers, filled with both sadness and determination. The resonance goes both ways, Captain. If we push it to its limit, overload the quantum cores of both Guardian ships, we can create a feedback loop in their dimensional frequency, tear their reality apart like they've been tearing apart ours. But the energy required. Dr. Vix's calculations appeared on nearby screens. The human consciousness acting as the bridge couldn't survive that kind of quantum feedback. No, Blackthorn agreed. We couldn't, but we always knew this was a one-way mission. Why do you think they called us Guardians? Before anyone could respond, the Void Queen attacked. Massive tentacles of dark energy lashed out at both Guardian ships. The Prometheus's shields held barely, while the Nemesis shuddered under the impact. All Alliance ships fall back to minimum safe distance, Blackthorn ordered, his hands dancing across the quantum interface. Captain Rhodes, it's been an honor. Thank you for waking us up in time. Rhodes wanted to argue to find another way, but she could see in his eyes that the decision had been made centuries ago. This had always been the plan, humanity's final gift to the galaxy that would come after them. Guardian Way, Blackthorn transmitted. Begin final resonance sequence on my mark. Acknowledged, Commodore, it has been an honor. The two Guardian ships moved into position, their quantum cores beginning to pulse with building energy. The Void Queen seemed to sense their purpose, its attacks becoming more frenzied. Now, Blackthorn commanded. Twin beams of pure quantum energy lanced out from the Guardian ships, connecting with the Void Queen's central mass. But this time, instead of pushing back, they held on. The beams began to pulse with impossible colors as two realities connected fully for the first time. Blackthorn's body arched in his control chair as the quantum feedback surged through him. Through the neural link, he could feel Wei experiencing the same thing. Their minds touched the void directly, and for a moment they understood everything: the void hunter's eternal hunger, the cosmic cycle of reality consuming reality, the endless dance of creation and destruction.